Good afternoon on what is a mild, bright and sunny day. It is Thursday the 1st of February and I'm in the reading nook with a nice hot cup of tea. And box to continue unboxing. And what I've got in here is Temple of the Wurm. Now this is a scenario for Lamentations of the Flame Princess weird fantasy role-playing game. The OSR Old School Renaissance Retro Clone published by Lamentations of the Flame Princess. So, an adventure for Lamentations of the Flame Princess, weird fantasy role-playing and other traditional tabletop role-playing games. Death erupts from a realm beyond the senses, threatening to cull the final remnants of an alien race. Heretics practice forbidden rites in a desperate attempt to stave off the creeping doom. Shadows take on a life of their own and are quickly sundered, lost forever under the siege of a blade. Under the edge of a blade, sorry. A father cries out piteously for someone to help find his missing child and receives only contempt in reply. Hope dies in the depths, leaving despair alone to hold its wake. All this and more awaits those who dare venture into the Temple of the Wurm. So, we open up and interesting choice of inside cover. It's basically that feels almost like lake-like, almost as if you're underwater. And yes, that is where this scenario does actually take place. So we have a strange encounter there with some kind of worm, hence Temple of the Wurm. And we just so we've got the credits page there, and then we have the contents and introduction with a guide. Essentially, this is inspired by two things. One is Flatland, A Romance of Many Dimensions, written by Edwin A. Abbot, which is a science fiction work from the 19th century, and the 20th century work by Kurt Vonnegut, Slaughterhouse Five. Both these stories play with the concept of dimensionality and how creatures of limited perception, such as ourselves, might expand their horizons by considering the existence of dimensions beyond those that they can see and touch. Explanation of the basic plot. I mean, is literally just given in a single paragraph, but that's a start. So there are some scenarios you get where you don't even get that, and just going, what's this about? And you have to read through to find out. But nonetheless, you have a much more detailed explanation to the background, and what you've got is a race of essentially aliens occupying this whole environment. It's Oxyndians who are able to basically move in two dimensions essentially, but can access higher dimensions. So we have certain different spells they can cast, such as add dimension, remove dimension. So you can actually they can cast it and add dimensions and remove dimensions from your player characters as they investigate. And then shadow to flesh, turn your shadow into flesh. I mean, we've got a list of the other spells there that they use, but they're standard spells. And then we've got another creature, flatworms. There we go. That's the creature we saw being attacked earlier. I think that creature is actually hunting. We've got stats for that, and it's hunting the Oxyndians through the complex. And you've got notes there on two-dimensionality and how it works. Through how a three-dimensional creature perceives reality, how a two-dimensional reality perceives reality, and so on, and how the technology of the Oxyndians works in their complex. Set of encounters that the player characters may well have, with a random encounter table, and then character explanations and example encounters which the game master can throw at her players. So this might be non-player characters or player characters, running into each other, time displaced creatures, two-dimensional creatures, and then burrowing creatures. Different options there for the game master to use as is her wont. Victims of weird experimentation, other dimensional beings and young Arxendians afflicted Arxendians other extraordinary Arxendians. So you've got a range of encounters which we have had in the scenario. So at last you've got all that, and then it gets to getting the characters involved. So this is all essentially set up, explaining what's going on. So obviously the primary one here is sort of like the fisherman and his missing child. Here he is crying into his beer at lost hope, and then we have the map of Temple of the Wurm itself. It's accessed sort of like under the lake through that tunnel, and then through there's like a temple there, like a standing stones, and you've got access down through that tunnel, and you end up in this complex there. I mean, always looking sort of like a traditional kind of dungeon, and not really like what you would expect. So a complex like this for these creatures, you expect something a little more science fiction based because of the science fiction nature of the inspiration of the and nature of the creatures, adding that and taking away that dimensionality during the course of play. So lake entrance and temple entrance, you've got describing the locations. And these stat boxes are nice and clear. I'm just going through the different locations one by one. They're named by number rather than actual by name. So that's a little bit bland, I think. So then we have features of note in the main temple complex. So copper wire running around the edges of most of the ceiling. All the entrance run by electricity. Most of the temple is composed of smoothly polished planes of chert. And there is language and inscriptions upon the wall that perhaps the player characters might be able to decode, whether that's through spells or they understand language ability. Some of these locations illustrated like that, and how the player characters might sort of view them and interact with them, so you can actually I mean, one of the things about this, the advantage here perhaps is that you can show the pictures to your players without really knowing that the players actually knowing where their characters are in the complex, except they might be they're just in area number 5. So all the way through down there, so not actually much necessary to see here, but you've got an interesting adventure, something that is going to, because it's Lamentations of the Weird, Lamentations of the Flame Princess Weird Fantasy Role-Playing is going to screw the players over. More science fiction in its origins and perhaps effects than fantasy necessarily. And then at the end we have non-player characters and a quick reference, essentially, basically their appearance in order, and then a reference for how things work for the game master to use. So nice and sort of like useful reference tables at the end. So yeah, that's Temple of the Wurm, published by Lamentations of the Flame Princess for Lamentations of the Flame Princess Weird Fantasy Role-Playing, but actually will really work with other retro clones without any difficulty. Yeah, so essentially this is a weird science fiction horror scenario where the player characters are just going to explore the area, discover the sort of like the weird science that is going on, and the characters are not going to really understand it. They're going to encounter strange beings and attempt to interact them, and found really kind of difficult because of the lack of dimensionality. And maybe they'll lose dimensionality because of that interaction, or they gain it. They will find themselves sort of like undergoing strange changes throughout. So yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you have, then please do click on the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to more unboxings in the Nook, where you will see me out here with a box, typically containing a book or game, or in this case a scenario for Lamentations of the Flame Princess with Weird Fantasy Role-Playing, which I will unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea. Then please do click on the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching. I'll be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.